Hey there, welcome to SharkCast Pod, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world, the mighty Cronulla Sharks. This show is brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and Jason Hawes at Cripps and Cripps Real Estate. My name is Sam Shinazzi and OG from 2015, supporting the team for a lot longer than that, and it is my honour and duty to bring in on the other end of this podcast my good buddy, Sharks analyst, OG listener from 2015. He's been with the family for almost that long as well, which has been great. Sporting a great beanie because it is winter in Sydney time. And just a hell of a bloke, Mr. Josh Bolling. Hey, Josh, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Another lovely intro as always. Good to see your face, mate.
Thank you. Not many people say that, so I'm glad that you said it. So thank you very much. Big week in Sharkland as always. I'm going to get to it on this flagship episode. Thanks to everyone who tuned in to catching up with Kieran on a Monday night, which was kind of fun. The episode's been consumed by a lot of people, so thank you very much for that. And thanks for all the support you give us in general. We really appreciate it. Sharkland, Josh, huge week. We got a triple header at Shark Park on Sunday. The high-flying Flag, the higher-flying NRLW, and the pretty good NRL team are going to be out there playing the Knights. It should be a full house. If it's not already sold out, it will be. The weather is looking a bit better this week, is what you've told me. The original forecast was not great. That's turned in the last sort of 24 hours, which is good news. And overall, pretty good time to be a Sharks fan. Some injuries that we have, which we're going to hopefully overcome in the coming weeks. The King of Carrying Bar, Nico Hines, will be back in probably 3 weeks or so, barring any kind of last-minute hiccups. So things are looking up for the Sharks, and coming off their biggest ever win in Queensland, Josh, 44 points to nil. What did you make of that victory?
I would say pleasantly surprised, but I was quietly confident going into the week. I knew we had a lot of things going against us with some injuries and, some unease about how we've been performing. But was quietly confident going in, but did not expect a 44-0 shutout. I was super impressed. One of the best performances of the year. I know people can say it was just the Titans, but they've been in red hot form, the last 4 to 5, 6 weeks. So really, really happy for the boys to go up there and get the job done and be so professional about it too.
So completed 30 of 36 sets, 4 line breaks to nil. So Titans didn't make a line break. The high-flying attacking geniuses that they are didn't make a line break. And overall, a strong performance from the Sharks. We lost the penalty count 12-5, Josh. Did you realize that when you were watching it?
Oh, yeah. I was in some of the group chats going nuts.
I was the guy putting up the penalties on the screen, and I was just like, oh, yeah, another one. I didn't realize it was that many, though.
And the 6 agains as well were not in our favour either. I think in total, between penalties and 6 agains, it was like 16 or 18 to 8. It was something ridiculous. So
yeah.
We did a lot of good defense as well, which is another important aspect of that win, that we didn't really get much ball at all in that second half to put any more points on, and we shut them out.
Yeah, and there was some times before halftime some moments before halftime where we were on our line for repeat sets and held them out again. A really good Cam McInnes try saver later in the game where nothing was on the line, and he just stopped one of their big guys from scoring with sheer strength. And that's the kind of thing we need to see, 4 weeks out from the finals. So did anyone in particular stand out for you? I thought for me it was Jack Williams, man of the match. And then I thought everyone else did their job. I was very impressed with McInnes and Brayley given the situation they were put in. But I thought 1 to 17, they all did a job.
Yeah, honestly, one of those rare games where you can't fault a single player. Even your Jaden Berrells and your Billy Burns went out there and did a job. Obviously, Jack Williams, goes without saying, was monumental. Just every time he touched the ball, he was bumping blokes off, making post-contact meters, tackled everything that moved. I thought Blake Brayley really stood up in this game, really showcased his leadership. Was playing hooker, but was still almost playing halfback out of hooker. It was kind of interesting how like that try he set up for when Talakai scored, when he got out of dummy half and he wanted to go right to just put a kick in. He got blocked off by the Titans defender, took 3 steps out of dummy half and just like fizzed this cutout ball to
Yeah.
Talakai. It was just it's an Eero, sorry, but it was just he was sublime. And that's the guy we want to see every week. I know maybe he can't with when Trindle and Nico are running the show, but he's got so much potential and so much talent that I want to see that all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting, Josh, because you're right. Like, we do want to see that week in, week out. But then that makes him as dominant a playmaker as a Hines or Trindle. And maybe, and I'm just speculating, maybe there's not room for that in this team that we have. I think there is. I think you cannot have enough of that. But maybe he tones it back, and in toning it back, sometimes he doesn't do it. I mean, that could be a thing. But we've seen the 2 times he's sort of had to play the halfback hooker thing, he's done really well. So we know he can do it. Maybe that's a thing for the coaching staff to work on, to say, hey, everyone's back, but we'd like you to sort of play, maybe half of that role or a quarter of that role at least. Just do it a bit more, because we've seen what you can do. And Cam McInnes was excellent as well in that role. A little bit different for him. And we talked about it on a few of the shows since the game. And I want to ask you, Josh, when they're back to 1-17 full strength, what reason would you give me that they can't do that style of football for, say, majority of games?
Well, I was actually going to ask you the same question. I mean,
right.
This power game that we're playing through, this simplified middle-of-the-road game plan, is it a thing that, Trindle and Nico want more ball, so we're unable to play that style? Because it's worked every time we've done it this year. We've probably done it 3 or 4 times. Obviously, the 2 standouts are the Melbourne game and this Titans game, but we've done it a few times, and we just, teams cannot handle us when we get that roll on through the middle. And I don't know why you'd go away from that, because playing that style, you can still do your flashy stuff on the end of sets, which we did this game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just a thing where Nico and Trindle want more ball, which obviously you want the ball in your halves' hands, but it works for us. Like, the forwards seem like they're 3 times better than what they are when we play this style. Are they being held back? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it can be a thing where we saw when Penrith beat Parramatta last week in the game after us, and they went nuts in the last 5 minutes. Maybe that could be some sort of fallback for them, where they're down by 6, they need to win the game, level the game. They're starting out their own 20. Maybe that is, there's a sign. They say something, a spoken word they say, and then they click into that range of power football, and that can be a fallback, because it works. I mean, it works for a bunch of those sets that we had on the weekend. So maybe if they need to get out of jail, instead of sort of doing the more Hail Mary stuff, that's their go-to, because it's very powerful. And I think against the majority of teams, when they're playing that way, and if they're playing a Parramatta or a Roosters or a Storm, which they will be in the finals, I still think it'll be really effective, even though those teams are better than the Titans.
100%. I mean, when you get momentum like that in footy, as everyone would know, it's hard to lose it, and it's hard to get it back. And when we had it on the weekend, in the commentary, Vossi was saying, the Titans could not handle it. Brayley would jump out of dummy half, get Jack Williams, running onto the ball, and then quick play of the ball, and then McInnes would dive back in behind the markers. And it was like, I don't care who you are, you're not going to be able to get back on side and defend that 5 tackles in a row or 3 sets in a row if you can do that. It's a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of effort to do that for an entire game or for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. So
sure,
I'm not saying we need to go and do that every week, but come finals time, I think that's the game plan.
Yeah, because a finals game is obviously traditionally tighter, better defense. So why wouldn't you do that? I mean, I'm having sort of these flashbacks to, and people won't believe I'm saying this, but the Chris Anderson style of flat football and what they did on the weekend. Okay, it wasn't that, but it was in that ballpark where it was just a power game. Just quick play the balls, short passes. And then when we got into opposition territory, it got a bit more flashy, which was great.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's something that the coaching staff can look at, and it's almost like, as I said, a little trick in their back pocket now, where they probably didn't have that at the start of the year because they wouldn't have thought they'd be in this scenario. And we had, I can't remember who it was, I apologise, but one of our listeners wrote to us a couple of times saying, what happens if all four guys of the spine go down? And we kind of laughed and went, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's kind of happened. Not all four, but you know what I'm saying. And yeah, the coaching staff would not have planned for this. I mean, they would have thought of scenarios. They would have spent an hour or an afternoon going, well, what if this happens? I'm sure they do have those scenarios, but they wouldn't have trained all summer for it. So interesting style of football that they have up their sleeve. What are we going to do with Dan Atkinson when Trindle and Hines are fit? Tell me, you're the smarter one out of the two of us. What are we going to do?
I think he misses out, which is really tough. The only thing you could argue is that Dan obviously takes a back seat to whoever is his 7. Whether he's playing with Nico or he's playing with Trindle, he takes that backward step, lets whoever is playing there do whatever they need to do, and he just chips in with a couple of kicks and some runs and just shovels the ball on. Maybe overall he's a better partner for either of them, but also like Trindle and Hines are better players than him. So
yeah,
it's a tricky one because obviously you're going to take the 2 better players when push comes to shove. But I don't know. It's tough, man, because he's playing so well. And he fits the system so well. But gun to my head in a finals game, I probably would rather, Tricky and Hines being there. And if we can just get them playing how they do by themselves together, we're onto a serious winner.
I just love the calmness that guy brings and I say maturity, but he's like 23 and played like 10 games. But the calmness in the way he does his job, we just don't have a lot of that necessarily consistently. Like, I'm not saying the other guys don't do it because they do, but everything we see out of this guy, he just does at the best of his ability the whole time. And I think that is something that we can say, well, not every player in the NRL does that, but this guy, whether he's on the wing, whether he's a fullback, whether he's a half, he doesn't let you down. And okay, the wing thing was not a major success, but he still did it to the best of his ability.
Still scored a try.
That's all you can ask from him is to do that. So I think that's...
What would you do, Sam, if it's coming down to week 1 of the finals and all 3 are available?
I'm probably, and I hate saying this, I'm probably making room for him on the bench. Mm-hmm. And one of those big guys is going to miss out, probably whoever plays the least minutes, unfortunately. And I'm telling the other 3 guys that you're going to play extra minutes because he would be there as backup, but he would also be there when it's 14 to 12 or when it's, let me make it better, when it's 20 all, just to have that extra guy out there. And he doesn't have to take the field goal, but he can. And then you got another foil because they look out and they go, was it Nico? Was it Trindle? Was it Atkinson? I don't know. I'd kind of get a bit tricky with this stuff because I rate this guy so much. Not saying he's the greatest footballer of all time. I'm just saying it seems like he really has a place in this team now. And it's not fair to Trindle or Hines to remove them because they've been great, like no doubt. They haven't had a lot of time together. None of the 3 of them have had time because they've all been, well, Trindle and Hines have been out for different reasons for different periods of time. So we still haven't really seen Trindle and Hines show over a long period. But I just don't think Atkinson is missing out at this point, and that means someone on the bench is going to miss out, which sucks. We've got a whole bunch of benchies who have done a great job. But I think you do that. I think at the very, very worst, Josh, he's 18th man. Very worst. And then, I mean, you're not hoping for an injury, but if something happens, well, something happens. But a good problem to have.
I do. I think the bench option isn't terrible because Trindle and Hines are more than likely going to be coming back in that week 1 with not under injury clouds per se, but they're never far away from one when you're coming back from recent injuries. So it's not a bad option. If one of them goes down in the finals, you've got a little Dan Atkinson to come on and replace him. It's not a bad shout. Otherwise, the game's probably over if you lose one of them mid-final.
Huge shout-outs to the 4 and the 5, Carl Iro and Sam Stonestreet. Really monster games. We've seen Iro with a number of huge games, particularly with his meters. He's starting to show a lot more skill with setting up tries and line breaks and that kind of thing. He's finding his feet in first grade. And Stone Street in his third game had his best one out of the three and scored 2 tries, ran for almost 200 meters and didn't miss a tackle and looked pretty good out there. And he'll just get better and better when he gets his chances. Obviously, Ronaldo comes straight back in when he's ready. But Sam Stonestreet's letting everyone know that he's the real deal and that he's next cab off the rank. And maybe when it's contract time for one of the two guys, which is, I think, Ronaldo's next, there's something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, should have had 3 tries. Got unlucky with that drop ball, but was really good. I have been a little skeptical on Stone Street. I just think more so with his size, getting dominated through his hit ups, but he absorbed contact a lot better on the weekend. And the more games he plays, the more comfortable he's going to feel within himself and then within the team. And over the next coming years, he'll get fitter, he'll get stronger, he'll get bigger. And there is something to be said with if Ronaldo does decide to not take up that contract with us, he's the guy, and then we can keep Katoa on that that relatively modest deal that he's on.
Yeah.
So that's why I think you've just got to play your cards right here in terms of keeping everyone happy, but knowing if Ronnie wants to go, we're probably going to need to know sooner rather than later so we can keep Sam, because people will start calling.
Yeah, and we're not making anything out of the Ronaldo contract. What we know is that he said publicly that he wants to stay, but he's looking at other options just from a financial point of view more than anything, and no one's knocking him for that. That's what you got to do in this short career that he's got. But it is going to be a reality. Like, he's going to be talking to people, and he's going to be wanted by, I would imagine, a few clubs. How much you throw at him, I'm not really sure. He does a lot on the field, does a lot off the field. I definitely would be trying to keep him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. So, but having said that, if there's a situation, whether it's one of the two wingers leave or one of them gets an injury or whatever, this kid's good to go, as we've seen. So that is a very big positive. I thought Toby Rudolph was great again. Josh, what's going on with him? He's found a few energy solutions to his career because he's going pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, his last month has been really, really good, and I've been incredibly critical of Toby this year. I think he's been pretty poor, but the last month, man, I don't know if that toes sorted itself out, or if just that fitness level of playing consistently again it's catching up with him in a good way. But man, he's been on a mission the last month. He's been really good, and I always put my hand up. If people play bad, I'll call them out. If they play good, they deserve the raps, and he's been nothing short of exceptional. I mean, 140 meters or so, like over 100 meters again. He scored his 1 try for the year that he gets, and he was pumped too. His energy on the field looks better too, in terms of like his personality and firing the boys up. He doesn't look gassed, where he kind of stands at the back of the huddle and his hands on his knees and he's gone. Like his energy levels are good, and he's one of those guys we need to lift us on the field because he's got that personality.
I thought maybe it was something to do with playing less minutes, but he played for 52 minutes in the weekend, which is a phenomenal stint. Looking at the other times for the players, I mean, we saw Cam McInnes play 73 minutes, which is almost what we need. I need him at 80, but 73 is great.
He only went off because of that cramp as
Got
well.
the cramp, fair enough. We saw Kafusi play half a game. Talakai played an hour. Jack Williams played an hour. Obviously, that was a monster effort. Royce was quiet, and I say that respectfully. There wasn't much for him to do. He played 20 minutes for about 50 meters of 5 hit-ups. Beryl was solid. He played half an hour. Hazelton played half a game. Billy Burns played half an hour. So the bench looked a lot more, I guess, controlled and well-structured. I guess there wasn't a lot of hiccups in the game. We did have a sin bin later in the game, but that didn't really affect anything with Jesse Ramian. But I mean, the bench, it's different to how it's going to be most weeks because you got Beryl and Billy Burns there, and they're not going to be there most weeks, respectfully.
Yeah. No, they. I was surprised. Beryl's defense was a lot tighter than it was against the Cowboys a few weeks ago. And Billy Burns again just hasn't let us down yet. Like he hasn't really put a foot wrong. Like he's not a world beater, and I'm sure he would know that as much as anyone. But he just come out and he just fills the role, makes his tackles, couple of runs here and there when it was needed. He might have been the one that shifted to center when Jesse went off. I can't remember, but just like that bench, then those minutes that you just read out are a lot more balanced than they have been previously. Like, besides Royce getting 20 minutes, which is going to happen when you have a 4 forward bench, really balanced, and no one ever looked too tired. Like if anyone ever looked like they were going, like when Jack Williams started just to fade a little bit, they took him off. Which has been a problem with Fitz. I've found over the time he's been here, leaving guys on that 5-10 minutes too long. But that wasn't the case. So that's the kind of rotation we're going to need, for the duration of the season.
Just on Billy Burns, maybe it was a case of he came from Penrith, good system. No one really thought anything negative of him there. Went to the Dragons. Maybe he went there as some sort of like, prize recruit or whatever. The expectation was higher. They were going through a really bad run, different coaches, whatever. And I guess when you look at a player like that, you look at them different, you expect different things. And so when he didn't set the world on fire or he made an error or whatever, you were like, oh, this guy's, not great. But coming to Cronulla, I mean, he cut his contract short at the Dragons to come to Cronulla. He knew that he was behind this, pretty good pack that would be hard to crack. He's been really good in Cup for Newtown. And when he's had 3 or 4 chances this year, he's made the most of them. So I don't doubt that Fitz will be ready to pick him if he's needed. And I think it's not necessarily where his career should be at, because maybe he should be playing every week. I don't know. Like as we say, he's not letting us down. But I think it's a good place for him to be with our club. Just, train hard, work hard. When your chances come, take them. And then you sort of become like a Kurt Capewell, where you become the next guy up. But then maybe in a year or two, I'm not sure of Billy's age, but in a year or two, maybe he's a regular on the bench due to whatever, his rise in form and our circumstances. So I think he's playing his cards pretty nicely here.
Yeah, and I think when he went to St. George, he was starting back row. Like he was he was there every week, and I think he faded off at the end there, but he was playing, a fair few games for him at starting. So I don't think he's that player, and I think he suits again. Like Fitz is really good at picking guys who will fit the system and fit the squad, and guys who are not coming here with inflated egos thinking they deserve to be in the first grade side. Not he's there going, I'm probably going to play most of the year in Cup, but when I get my chance, I'm not going to let anyone down. And to his credit, he hasn't let anyone down so far. I think some people, sometimes get a little caught up in why are we signing this guy? Like he's crap or whatever. It's like we're not signing these guys to play 25 first grade games a year. You can't have 30 NRL standard first graders. You've seen what happens when you have 19 first graders that they need to leave, like with Connor Tracy and maybe with like a Dan Atkinson in the future. Like you can't have all these guys that should be playing first grade forever. You might get a year or two lucky with them. So you need to have these guys who are Cup level, who can rise to the occasion 5 times, 6 times a year. And I think that's exactly what Billy Burns is, and credit to him.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll be interesting to see his rise as, finals football comes along, and we're hoping we're going to be fit and firing. We just never know what the cards are going to be when you get there. And
exactly,
if he's there, I'm not worried. I'm not suggesting he's going to win us a grand final, but from everything he's shown us, there's no criticism, there's no negatives, and that's, without being cheeky, that's a positive.
There are much worse players that are the backups for other clubs. I'll tell you that. Like you could do a lot worse than Billy Burns. Again, I'm not trying to make him out more than he is, but I'm just saying that's teams like the Tigers and the Knights, some of their backup players are not good. They're not first grade standard, and I'd rather have a Billy Burns than some of the guys running around in NRL at the moment.
Well, I mean, look at the starters for the Knights and the Tigers. They're not very good either. So that shows where we're at as a club. It's like Fitzy's building a nice little team here, and I'm a believer that one day in the next few years it's going to happen for us. But I mean, we're sitting in fourth. We've been fourth for a while now. We're not dropping, and just got to keep on going with the team that we have, and it's a good team. 44-0 to the Sharks, great victory. We thought we'd win that one, Josh, but not by any means like that. We thought it might be more of a shootout. It wasn't. Full credit to the defense. We're talking about the attack and the points. The defense to keep a team to nil is great. We've kept 3 out of the 4 last games have been 6 points or less. So, Come on, that's huge, dude. In every sort of KPI, that's huge. It's huge for the for and against. It's huge for the respect. It's huge for the pattern to keep going this week against the Knights. That's the thing that they're focusing on. They don't care about the 44 points.
No, and I thought a major shout out to Ero and Stone Street in particular, the way they defended their edge, because they had Keanu Keeney coming at them multiple times. I mean, the Titans did throw a lot at us. I mean, I know the stats don't read well, but watching the game live, like they were threatening, and there was a lot of scramble defense, a lot of good reads, and the way that Ero defended some of those shapes that they threw at us was like superb. Like the way he gave space, slid out, Stone Street stayed on his wing. And then if Ero ever fell off one, Stone Street came in and finished it off. Like it was really superb, like defensive structure.
And that's the bonus of having 2 younger guys out there. They're younger, they're fitter, they're faster. And they're going to make mistakes. But the way they shut them down, I think, was because of their youth and because of their, energy and speed. Like that was the crux of it. And I'm not saying Talakai couldn't do that when he was a center, but obviously Ero's twice as fast. So huge positive there for the Sharks. NRLW, Joshy, Sharkies undefeated, top of the table. They won 24 points to 12 in Canberra. Excuse me. And another gritty, full of heart performance by the NRLW team. A team that's been ravaged with injuries over the past 2 years. We know we've lost Taylor for the year. They're missing Tonegado. They're signing people midweek to jump in and play. And it was great, man. Like down 12-0, came back to win by 12 points. We didn't really see that one coming during the game, especially first half. Not a great performance, a lot of drop ball. Defensively, okay. Like the tries weren't, embarrassing or anything that we conceded. But to come back, I mean, that shows really great leadership from the coaching staff, from the leaders out there on the field, the more experienced players. And the younger women are just playing out of their skin.
Yeah, the first half was really poor. I was really disappointed with just the lack of the execution, and some of the ball handling was really sloppy. And I was like, oh, this is going to get ugly. But I mean, they really turned it around that second half. And some of like the standouts, like Penatani, man, like she is like too good. Like for that level, she was the best player on the field by a country mile. Like every time she touches the ball, she's either getting through a tackle or she's like half breaks or like post contact meters. Like she is ridiculous.
So she's our captain. She's played rep footy. She has played in a number of different positions in the back line. Usually, I think in that game or the game before, she was named. Oh, sorry, last week she was named at fullback. Didn't play at fullback.
Played center, yeah.
But ran for 200 meters, scored a try, and her hit-ups are just, for someone who is not the biggest human in the world, her hit-ups are really strong down those edges. She doesn't shirk the responsibility from getting us out of her own yard. And as one of the more, mature leaders of the team, it's hard not to be inspired by her to that floats throughout the team. And we saw, Ravix ran for 105 meters. Biddle, who's a beast, ran for almost 200 meters. The back five ran for at least 100, averaging close to 150 meters. So
Holly Wheeler was absolutely outstanding.
Yep. I'll tell you who is the pick of the bunch out there, and I knew it, but I wouldn't have sort of spoken about it, but that's Brooke Anderson at lock. She was great. Phenomenal. She does that week in, week out. I'm only just sort of catching up on that fact that she's that good. But 27 tackles, 115 meters, 12 runs. Just absolutely rock steady, and that's what you want in that position. Obviously, the props are great. Johnston and Wheeler.
37 out of 37 tackles, man, for Ellie. Doesn't miss. Yeah.
And Quincy Dodd at hooker is... I'm not going to say she's underrated because, she's a superstar, but but I think she's underrated in the scheme of maybe when they talk about, I don't know, when they talk about the best players in the NRLW, she's just so solid and skillful and tough. And we got
113 meters out of dummy half. Like what?
Yeah, we got a really good team, and
Yeah.
that was without Tonegata, that was without Taylor. Tonegata's been named on the extended bench this week, and hopefully she plays.
Yeah.
I think she might, but so there's still some good depth there, even though they have lost at least one player for the year. So we play the Knights this week at Shark Park. It's the game before NRLW. If you're coming down to the game, definitely come down and watch that because it's going to be awesome. Yeah, they're all big games, Josh, aren't they? I'm not even being smart.
No, you don't get a chance.
If you lose a game, it might cost you at some point. NRL itself, it's like, oh, we lost a game, whatever. But NRLW, there's 9 games, so you do need to make the most of it. But yeah, congratulations to the coaching staff and the NRLW team. They're just killing it. And what's your preference, Josh? Do you like, as a consumer fan, do you like them playing on the same day as the NRLW team, or do you like it split up?
I like them playing before the men's because they will get a bigger crowd.
Yep.
But as a personal preference, I like the split 2 days because they get double the Sharks, over one weekend. But if they're back to back as well, I'm like, oh, Sharks, before if they're playing before an NRL game, I like that because the crowd and the atmosphere tends to be better.
Yeah.
But just personal preference, getting two, over the weekend is I'm selfish.
It's fun. It's real fun. I mean, this weekend is perfect. Okay, so it's like maybe we'll just say when they play at home, let's have them play before the men's, and we know that's not the case. But we're just saying in a make-believe world that would be perfect. And when they're away, split it over 2 days so we can get 2 days of Sharks. But it's a great feeling, as we're both Sharks fanatics, obviously, and it's a good feeling where, especially on a Friday night, woohoo, 44-0, and then next morning it's like, oh, we're playing in Canberra, yeah. So, and they win against as well. So it's a good place to be if you're a Sharks fan right now. Hopefully they can keep it going. Newcastle are great. I mean, their fullback is unbelievable, but
he's a freak.
I got a good feeling about the game this week and just the vibe that's going to be down there. Jersey Flag is on before, and we encourage you to go watch that as well. But I think at the very least, the fact that there will be people there for Flag, and it's in between the two games, this game, I think there will be a decent crowd there. We saw last year against Canberra, they had I think it was close to full at that point. If not, it was probably, 3/4 full for the Canberra.
It was a good crowd. So is it? Yeah. It's the women's, then Flag, then men?
No. Flag first, women's, as it should be. Yeah.
So that'll be great. Like in that probably that second half for the women's game, this should be a really good number, especially if it's a nice day, Sunday, 3 grades. Both teams are going well. Like I expect and would hope that the crowds will turn out for that because
I think so.
What more do you want? Like 2 top 4 teams at the moment. Come on, like let's get out
there. Sunday afternoon. It's not sort of clashing with too many people's work life. I'm not saying everyone, but most people, and there's there's a couple of places you can go to pre-game, but whatever, just go to the ground and check out the NRLW because there's some outstanding talent out there. Do you have any personal playing favorites in the team, Joshy? Anyone's like that you love to watch?
But Penatani. Like every time she touches the ball, like I'm on the edge of my seat. Like I just genuinely think she's like a step above like 80% of the entire league. Like she's that good.
Yes, I agree. I got a few faves. I do love the back rower Holmes. I think she's incredible, and I hope that she has a great year. She's great to watch. But yeah, number of
Dodd's a freak. I love her.
Yeah, Anessa Biddle, complete badass.
She's fiery, isn't she? She gets into it. Like she reminds me of like a BJ Leilua in his prime, just like knows she's better than her opposition or like believes it and just like wants to bash
I'd prefer like a Jesse Ramian kind of confidence personally, maybe. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said Leilua, to be perfectly honest. You've thrown me a little bit.
When he was good, like in that 2016, like he was just like, I'm going to smash you. Like I get that from her.
Yeah, very physical player. But yeah, anyway, that's NRLW for last week. This week you can watch them at Shark Park against the Knights. Should be a cracking game. And if you cannot get to the ground, it'll be on the KO, the Fox Sports. I imagine maybe a Channel 9 as well. It's some sort of digital thing happening. So that's the week that was last week, Joshy. Let me tell you quickly about Dyson Logistics. They are our awesome friends. They're based on the Central Coast, but from the Shire originally. They deliver things globally in a great, timely manner, great quality, fair prices. Please give them a touch. Give them a touch. Give them a call. Give them a touch. I've touched Kane at Dyson Logistics many times. Give them a call. 02 8339 1844 DysonLogistics.com. Great service delivered every time. That's our friends at Dyson. Joshy, we've got a little bit of news floating around, which we'll get to. So, we mentioned Jersey Flag. They are playing this week at Shark Park. So, they beat Melbourne last week 54-16. And they keep moving closer to the finals. The year started out a bit sketchy, but they've come good in the last month or so. Kickoff for that game is at 11:30 on Sunday. So, full day of entertainment for you if you want to head out there. And I would suggest you take note of the halfback, Riley Pollard. We've spoken about him on the show before. He will, if the way he trends, his career trends, he's going to be a first grader at some point and a really good one. Terrific young player. And also Dylan Couts, who's the second rower. He trains with the NRL team. He's also a future first grader. And I will also note fan favourite Felix Fatili. You can't miss him. He's probably the tallest player in the club, NRL included. I think he's bigger than tall Tom Hazelton. I think.
Tukes?
I think, wait till you see this guy, Felix. He's right amongst it. He's 19. His body shape is slightly different. Coming from me, I'm being respectful. It's something to work on. Like, don't get me wrong, he's an athlete, but he doesn't have he's more of a Hazelton figure than a Tuku figure, but even then he needs a little bit of work to be done. But Man Mountain at a boy's age, fun to watch, and hopefully a big future for him. So check out the Flag team early on Sunday, which will be great. The Newtown Shark Jets won again in the Frank Hyde Memorial Cup. What did they do? They beat the Bears, of course. What am I saying? They beat the Bears. And I don't know where they're playing this week, but they're also headed towards the finals if they keep going along the way that they are. So check out that team. Obviously, guys like Puru and other sort of fringe first graders are there to check out. Moving on from that, Joshy, I want to find you. Here it is. Breaking news from the Sharks. And it's related to this week's game and event. And the title of this piece is called Be the DJ. BETHE DJ exclamation mark. It's members round. So all of our members and a lot of our listeners are members, which is awesome. If you're not, look into it. Members round means a whole bunch of different things. Some of you get to go watch the team warm up. Some of you get to high five them as they run out. A bunch of different things like that, which have been emailed to you, and you can sort of go into, I guess, draws to be drawn out of luck of the draw kind of thing. But they're choosing a member to be the DJ at halftime, Josh. Now, from what I can tell, you can pick the song to be played at halftime, and it's not Sweet Caroline, which I personally am a fan of. Unfortunately for you, Josh, you can't pick Megadeth or Mortal Sin or any of those heavy metal devil bands that you like. But what I can see is you can pick from the following. Local musician, Shannon Knowles, What About Me? And something called Hey Baby by DJ Otzi, which I'm not familiar with. So you can vote for one of those two things And I guess the winner of those two songs gets played at halftime. I don't know. I think maybe we're all picking this. Is this what I'm? Yeah, we're all going to pick this. But if you enter the draw, you can also win a night at the Quest apartment just down the road. So I like it. I'd probably give you more than two choices, but that's just me. But I like it. Well done. Well done, the Sharks, our friends the Sharks.
Something different.
I like Sweet Caroline, but I've always loved that song. So I'm not one of those people that, and also understand the significance of playing it at sporting events. But anyway, something different. That's not the worst thing in the world, Josh. Do you have any other news for us, Josh? Any news on Jack Williams signing?
I wish we could sign him today. It'd be nice. What about the elephant in the room? Valentine Holmes.
That elephant. That two-timing.
He's a three-timer now.
Good on him. Yeah. I thought it was actually not happening. That's what the latest I heard was yesterday. It wasn't happening for whatever reason. That was what was out there. But yeah, I was pretty disappointed when I heard this morning. I might have let out a little bit of a curse word in the car when I heard the news. Just because I know what it means. Interesting one, isn't it? Coming back to the area and on a 3-year deal, big money. Yeah, he wanted to get away and he had to come back. Don't know how to feel except pretty annoyed, especially with the derby up next week. My mate Brooksy's already been to me about it with a few puns, such as, coming homes, etc. But yeah, pretty annoyed. What do you reckon?
I like it in the fact that it makes St. George worse. Now, hear me out.
Yeah, sure.
$850,000 for a guy that's 29 that is regressing, and regressing at an alarming rate, in my opinion. Was pretty bad in the Origin series. He's been pretty ordinary all year. His defense is getting worse. So maybe if they play him on the wing, but then you're paying $850,000 for a winger. I hate it. I mean, I love it, but I hate it. It's like if I was a St. George fan, that's. I know they needed to get someone, and I know that they lost Lomax, and they probably needed a big name, but it's an ordinary signing. They're going to be paying this guy $850,000 when he's 32. I mean, good luck.
I mean, I think Flano knew he needed to do something to replace Lomax, and I still personally think that he has something to offer. I understand it's a lot of money and it's a longer deal and you might want to offer him. But it's interesting that the Dragons didn't hesitate, Flano, for all of his faults, he's got a plan and they're playing a lot better this year. I think it's a 3 or 4 year kind of rebuild. I think in 3 or 4 years, they'll probably be a pretty good team.
Yeah.
I mean, Val won't be there at that point, which is interesting. But, I mean, I would play him at... Who's their fullback now?
Sloan.
He's okay.
I just don't think Val's body's got fullback in it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he could just plop him on the wing. I don't know. But yeah, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Unless could Sloan play 5'8"? Oh, no, they got Flanagan, don't they? That's not going to change. Yeah, I don't know, man. The only thing I was thinking of is, could I now boo him because he's wearing a St. George jersey? That was my big...
You have to.
I haven't got an answer yet, but I'm at least asking the question. Is it okay for me to now boo him? I know other people boo him. That's their business, but I've never done that. But I don't know if I could do it still. I just have such fond memories of the young man. But
I would never boo him, but I there's an evil little part in me that has enjoyed his downfall slightly, but that's just me.
Yeah, see, I don't get that. I'm not knocking you, but I don't relate to that. But if we're playing a local derby or if he drops the ball in a Dragons jersey, I'm going to care way less than. I mean, I don't care if he drops it in a Cowboys jersey, but I'm going to care way less now. I really don't like that jersey. So, yeah, it's not good, man. It's one of those things that you kind of hoped would never happen, and even when it was floated about, a month ago, I was like, oh, hopefully it doesn't happen. And then I think yesterday it was like, no, it's not happening. And today it was like, it's happening. So I don't know what's changed there, but yeah, I've already got a few sort of inbox haha messages. And yeah, as I said, Brooks is hammering me.
I thought the fans might want to know how you handled it. So hope you're okay.
Look, I'm okay. Nothing's going to change what he did for us. So I guess that's my my motto to everyone. It's like, just don't forget everything he did in that window that he did it, and don't forget the ride and how exciting it was. And even I'm talking post GF, like 2018, he was lights out at fullback.
Dude,
so
generational. Like that's what I think. That's what hurts the most, is that he was so good, and we took him when the Cowboys didn't want him, and we made him what he was, and he just like selfishly ruined his career a little bit, in my opinion. That he went and that year off, like he was generational, in my opinion. Like that year at fullback in 2018, he was off the charts.
I guess it's that thing where we can't be in his shoes, and he's like, household name in the Shire, getting paid great money, huge, sorry for the pun, future ahead of him. And then, in his personal life, we know that he's from up there. He married a girl from up there. They're looking at the calendar going, well, we could spend the rest of our career here, which would be another 10 years at the time. Or there's a club up there that would pay us as good, if not more money, with family and friends, and we could live our life there. Like I understand that.
With an NFL stint in between.
Yeah, I don't understand that. But interesting, man. But I don't often always, as you know, wear my heart on my sleeve, but when I do, I'm pretty open about it. And, he was my guy. And
it sucks.
I maintain, like, watching him as a kid and then as a young man, because I followed his career for a long, long time, I hadn't seen anyone really like that in my time. I'm not saying it hasn't happened before. Of course it has. But in my time, when you watch those guys at that age, there was something about him, and then he lived up to it. And it was amazing fun. So that's how I'm doing. Thanks for bringing it up, Josh. Appreciate it. On that note, I feel like I need a drink, and the only place that I really want to have a drink at is the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking. And I also like to eat there, Josh, as you do. And there's a great little restaurant there called The Galley. So get down there and tell them we sent you. And it's a great place to watch footy, which we've done as well. Great setup. Speakers. They've got the bar at the back, bar upstairs. Family friendly. Get in touch with them, 95239300. They're also at rmycph.com.au. And they have a membership app as well. So they've got you covered for all of your club needs. The Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking. Joshy, let's get to some mail. And I've got to tell you and the listeners, haven't read the mail. So we're going to fly by the seat of our pants, which is not the worst place to be. Now, Brendan was in touch. He said, I got to the game against the Tigers. Brendan travelled from, I think, Queensland or somewhere up there. He hadn't been there since 1978. He said he was disappointed with the seating in the Pete Burns lower stand. He was in the second row off the fence, and the advertising signs meant he couldn't see any grass on the field, and everyone in the front row had to stand up. Disappointing, but happy to be there. He was also allowed to... He somehow got into training, which is a big no-no for fans. Fans are not allowed in training, but Brendan might have dropped a few names and he got in, so that's awesome. Up, love the pod. Thanks, Brendan. Sorry that your seating experience wasn't great. I can't really answer that because I don't really know what's going on with that. We do hear that from time to time about the lower level seating. I would have thought that that would not be a problem given that you're paying money to sit there, but maybe take that up with the club. We have John. John says, what a win. Simplified our game, reaped the rewards. Not a bad player. Kale Iro, outstanding. Bradley Williams, Nickera, also very good. Enjoy your weekend, Shark fans. That's from John. Great stuff. Peter says, winners are grinners. Great win by the lads. A couple of weeks ago, I said Toby was like a budgie flying into a window. I remember that. This week, he was like a mutant eagle shark with booster rockets. What a win. What a podcast. Love your work. Up from Sharky Pete. So we're flying high on the back of Toby Rudolph. How good's that? Thank you, Peter, for your support and for your kind words and for your descriptive words of Toby. James has been in touch and he said, clearly our problem is our starting halves. We should drop them for the rest of the season. He then says, obviously joking, great win. That's James or Jimmy from Ireland. He might have had a few Guinnesses when he wrote that one. Stephen says, I'm normally emailing you when things have gone bad, but not this time. I thought the Titans game was exactly what the club and supporter base needed. With so many top-line players out, we showed plenty of attack and our defence was unreal. I thought the whole team went well with Jack Williams, Iro, Stone Street, and Atkinson our best. Hopefully we keep this form up and go on a run into the finals. That's from Stephen. Good stuff. Thanks for the positivity, my friend. Neil says, thanks for the post-game review. Great win considering the penalties and 6 agains were stacked against us. Wondering, our best 2 performances this year was beating the Storm in Melbourne and this win over the Titans. Both games were outsiders and without our first choice halves. Atkinson reminds me of Wishart from the Storm. Underrated but very effective. The dilemma we have is we have Nico and Trindle coming back from injury. 2 into 3 doesn't fit. Good problem to have. What do you guys think? Does Atkinson drop out or does he stay in the halves? I was impressed with Stone Street. Next man up for philosophy's working. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Thanks for being there for us. Your podcast, a second to none. Well, thank you, Neil. That's super kind. Super, super, super kind. We discussed Atkinson in the first seg, so go back and listen to that if for some reason you haven't. But, yes, Neil says, Josh, that our 2 best performances when we were under the gun, outsiders, and also the half situation. So take the half situation out of it. I want to talk to you, Josh Bolling, about us being angry little kids being told they can't do something. Because when we get our backs up, we actually play phenomenally. Like, how do we bring that into each week's playbook?
It's an interesting one. It's very psychological, isn't it? In terms of what do you need to get up for a game or to play your best? Do you need to be told you're not good enough and to, have the media and the fans against you? Or like, should you be able to just perform as a professional regardless? I don't know. I mean, there is something innate in human beings that when you get told you can't do something, you want to prove everyone wrong. So do we need to, as a podcast, just tell them they can't win every week? Is that what it's going to take? I don't know.
I think there's another podcast that does that, isn't there?
Yeah. We love them.
I saw the great T. Mortimer this morning, actually, just randomly. It was about a good chat. I like when we're told we can't do stuff. As you say, it's a human trait. You want to show the people that they're wrong. I think this year, and I may be completely wrong, but from my not great memory, this year is the first year I've heard players say to me on air that they wrote us off, they said we couldn't do it, etc. Usually we don't really hear that, but maybe it's just a case of all the pressure building up and being told you can't do it for so many years, you can't win finals, whatever. But this year, players are saying it to me, at least. I don't know if they're saying it to other people, but they're saying, yeah, we were told we couldn't do it. Everyone wrote us off. So it's obviously a thing that they're thinking about.
It would be hard not to. Like, people can say, the players can say all they want. They don't, they block out the outside noise and all that stuff. Like, they're going to hear it. And eventually you get sick of it. And the only thing you can do to change that is to prove them wrong and to go and win a finals game or to go and beat a top 4 side. And we've done that this year. I mean, round 1, Warriors, no one gave us a chance. And we went over there and did the job. I know the season hasn't panned out that way, but at the time,
no. Yeah.
Completely different beast. We've gone down and beaten Melbourne. We've beaten the Roosters. We've beaten the Cowboys.
Brisbane.
We've beaten Brisbane.
At Suncorp, yeah.
Irrelevant of where they are on the ladder, like those are teams that we have historically not done well against or beaten regardless of position on the ladder. So
you can't win with big crowds watching. Like everything they said we couldn't do, we've done.
We've done this year. And it's been a mostly consistent year. We've had some bad games, but we've won games we shouldn't have. So
yeah,
I think that we're starting to turn that corner slowly, and it takes time. You don't just become an elite top 4 side overnight. And we probably overshot it in that first year of finishing second, and came sixth last year, probably going to hopefully finish top 4 this year again. Like, we're in a really good spot, and we're building towards being, that consistent top 4 side that no one wants to play. But until we beat someone in a finals game, or we do a Panthers or something, it's still going to be there, and we just have to live with that. And like you said on Monday's podcast, we can only blame ourselves for that, for not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I said on Monday's podcast, fans better buckle in for that headline. It's coming. Even if we go 4 from 4 here, it's coming. So just get ready for it. David says, great win by the Sharks. Where's that form been of late? Great to see the next tier and emerging players perform so well. Expression next man up has become overused cliche, quickly losing its meaning. A couple of questions. Where did that turn of phrase originate, and how can we replace it? I don't know, David. It's all about depth of squad. I don't think any player or club has ever thought he's not next man up. I don't think he can be the next man up. Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely a great weekend to be a Shark. Now, he says, the damaged Shark fan in me sees the following scenario. If the Sharks lose one of the next 3 games, we face the prospect of playing Manly at Brookvale for a spot in the top 4. Serenity now, with a Seinfeld reference. Is that how you see it, Josh? If we lose one of the next 3, that we're in a battle for top 4 at Brookie?
I mean, it all depends on what Manly do, right? Like,
or the Bulldogs, maybe.
Or the Bulldogs, but Manly are close enough. Like, if they win this week and we lost, for example, they'd be 1 point behind us. But I mean, they could lose. Manly could go and lose 3 games in a row. Like, you don't know, and then it's irrelevant. So, I mean, if it comes down to, let's say both teams win the next 3 games in a row, and it comes down to it, I'll be terrified. I'm not scared to admit that. I'll be scared. There's just something about Manly. I don't actually rate them at all, but they seem to keep winning. So maybe I need to reassess my thoughts on Manly. But
it really is all about tall Tommy T. Like, he changes them, and you watch them play, and he's like the guy. Like, I watched them. Did they beat Canberra on the weekend, or who did they beat? They beat someone, yeah. And I thought, maybe Canberra's a slim chance here. It's like, nah, Manly are way too good. But it's all on the back of him. Obviously, Cherry Evans is great too. But yeah, I'm with you and David. I don't really want to be fighting for a top 4 spot at Brookvale Oval. I just don't want to do that. I don't really have the energy to do that. But we'll see what happens. I guess next week is a major game, the derby. Like, if we can win that derby, because out of the next 3, to me, that's the most difficult. It's away from home. They're probably the best out of the Knights and the Warriors. So if we can jag that one next week, including the other 2, I think we'll be sweet. But
it's interesting, Sam. I'm just having a look now. So Cronulla, Canterbury, and Manly all play each other in the last few rounds. So we play Manly the last round.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Manly versus Canterbury play the game before.
Right.
So I think both teams should win their next 2 games. And then it's those last 2 rounds are really going to decide what happens there between Canterbury and Manly and Cronulla.
I feel like the Dolphins might get the Dogs this week.
You reckon?
It's up at Bundaberg for some reason, and I just feel like the Dolphins have still got something left to do. Yeah,
they have to win, so it's all on the line at the moment. It's a great time of the year when the top 8 teams are all playing each other, and it's all on the line. Like, it's essentially a mini finals campaign.
Yeah. So Stephen wrote in and said, listen to the Monday pod. You mentioned in the off-season watching the 2016 season and getting over current season disappointment. Got me thinking, and maybe you could help. Is there a 2016 season DVD that features a summary of the storylines? I have the grand final DV with no extras. Yeah, Stephen, there is it. I've got it. It's really good.
Yeah,
I think it's voiced by our friend Andrew Voss, and it's cool. Yeah, definitely. You'll be able to find it somewhere. If it's not on Amazon, you'll be able to get it secondhand. And it's probably, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's just game by game, and Vossi tells you the story about it. And it's pretty cool. Like, I actually haven't watched that one for a while. I was joking, Stephen, when I said that I watched the 2016 season in the off-season just to get over everything, but my point stands that I'm hungry for a new title this year. if we were to go to the big dance and lose, I would be up for days with Josh just drinking whiskey over the ocean, but it wouldn't be like what it was if we'd lost the last one. So that was my only point there. And yes, we will be talking about that season and other seasons in the off seasons. Stay tuned for that. Appreciate you being in touch. Peter said Gavin Miller is the GOAT, my favourite Shark of all time, and that's in relation to me posting a video from Monday night's show about Gavin Miller. So if you haven't heard or seen the episode from Monday with Kieran, we do talk about some old footballers, including one of the greatest of all time, the great Gavin Miller.
Did I tell you my Gavin Miller story, Sam? When I met him,
I know it, but I'd love you to tell everyone about it. Yeah.
So I'd had a few beverages, and I was gaining up the courage to go and chat to Gav and tell him how much he meant to me, even though he was
back up. Tell everyone where you were.
We were at the SharkCast party where I first met you and Adam, and we're watching the Sharks play, and there was a bunch of people there, Ben Ross and Gavin Miller, and a couple other legends there from the Sharks, and so I went to speak to Gavin, just told him that even though he was outside of my era, like I've done my research and know how much he meant to the club and everything, and as you do when you've had a few drinks, you splurge a little bit and say all these great things, and he was really appreciative of it, and he asked me to write down my address and my name and my number on just like a pamphlet or something, a piece of paper. And I didn't think anything of it. I don't know why. And then about a week later, he had sent me like 3 signed photos of him, like in different eras, and like just the sweetest gesture that I didn't even think he was doing. He had no reason to do that, and he remembered, and like it was like such a profound moment for me to have such a legend of someone I looked up to for this club.
It's an old school move by athletes and even sort of entertainers. Like, you have some photos, you get them signed, you send them off to people who request them, or in your case, just sort of are nice to him. Real great ambassador for the club. We love him on the pod. And if you ever see him around, just go up and say g'day, because he's very approachable. And if you haven't seen him, I know we've got a lot of listeners who are younger and are very much new generation fans of the team. Go on YouTube, chuck in Gavin Miller, Cronulla Sharks, and just watch some of the highlights. It's just unbelievable. Just the ball playing forward like you've never seen. Just ridiculous. And definitely, as I said on the show on Monday, he copped a battering for what he did. And that should never be forgotten as well. But terrific. I want to give a shout out to Matt, who continues to spread the podcast love via his social media. So really appreciate that, Matt. I want to say, what else have we got here? Hello to our friend Smitty, long-time listener. And hello to Evan, our friend Fraser Glenn, who's a competitive real estate agent to Jason Hawes. That's kind of nice. The real estate wars. Throwing our friend Justin Wrestler, like it's just real estate people going through the roof on SharkCast Pod. Jason Hawes is number one, but if you're out of the Shire, look up Fraser Glenn. He's a good fella. He says, what a great night. I'm ashamed to admit I tipped the Titans. Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
2 famous victories on the road this season with Atkinson in the halves, McInnes in defence, and Brayley in attack. Have we cracked the code? Still plenty to improve on, but impressed with Stone Street. Maybe it's no coincidence we've stopped leaking points down that edge. And he says that as Ronnie's his favourite player. So that's interesting. He says, of course, Ronnie walks back into the team. He's as good as it gets. But I'd love to see him stop jamming in on repeat. Josh, is that something we're looking at with Stone Street? Like, has he stopped that defense a little bit, or?
I can't say it's not a coincidence. Like that edge is really, really sharpened up in the last couple of weeks. And is that because of Ronnie? I don't know. I am definitely someone that points that out, and I'm not a fan of his jamming in. And sometimes some guys just work better as combinations. Maybe Iro and Sam have just got better communication, or there's a bit more trust. I don't know. Like, do you think there's anything to that?
Haven't really given enough thought, and maybe it's circumstantial.
Yeah.
It was a problem for Ronnie in the last few weeks that he played. I don't think it's been a problem all year, but it definitely crept back into his game. He got rid of it. It's crept back in.
Yeah.
I mean, he was playing with some injuries. Maybe it's something to do with that. I'm not sure, but we definitely do not see, to any large degree, Stone Street and Road doing it. So something to be looked at for sure. Sean said, good stuff, Jack W. And that's about that from that little thing. Now we go over here. Michael, the statistician, says, I love the top fives that you and Kieran have been doing. And it came down, so just to briefly say what we do on that show, Josh, is that Kieran picks 5 players, Sharks players, and he puts a category on them. So he'll say they've played 0 to 50 games. These 5 have played 200 to 300. And I've got to pick them, but I pick them in an order that I don't know. So he says one player, and I'll go, he's 4. And then he picks the next player, and he tries to trick me, basically.
Yep.
So in this case, Michael says, between Preston Campbell and Jack Bird, I'm having Jack just in front. Preston transformed the team back then, but couldn't get the premiership. I'm in no means undervaluing Preston's contribution in the 01 season, but all things considered, Jack gives more on the time he was at Sharks. 2016 grand final was almost a Churchill medal heroic. I'm voting to keep the top 5 game going for a while. Thank you, Michael, for that. Michael was also the one that said something about, what did he say? Oh, Chris Anderson being a worthwhile coach at the time. So there's more to this story. We'll get to Michael, I think, in the off-season. He can tell us all about that. I want to give a shout-out to our friend in Melbourne, Luke, who has had some relatively good news, so that's kind of cool. Thanks for letting us know about that. Hopefully that works out for you. And just looking at this. No, we've done that one. That's good, Josh. Let's go to... okay, let's go over here. Sorry for everyone who's listening and watching. Okay. Brent has written to us. Brent sometimes likes to get his frustrations out, but he says, in this one, great win. 2 in a row against average sides. I won't be satisfied till we win the next 2. Then I'll start believing again. Well, Brent, I'll get you early. The Titans were along with Melbourne and the Roosters, the form team of last month. So, going to stop you there. They weren't average, but they did play average in that game. I'll give you that. He says he's still not impressed with Kafusi. A few too many errors for him. He said Jack Williams had a big game. Hopefully it's not a one-off. Brayley's game was lifted to another level. That's how he needs to continue to play what he's doing. Quite happy with Stone Street showing the speed out wide. And Siffer keeps getting better. So, some positivity there from Brent in some negativity, which is fine as well. At home this Sunday, we should be putting on a show in front of the home fans, putting on a big score on a team that isn't up to our league. Up. That's from Brent. And I agree with that. I think that, and we'll get to it in the next segment really quickly, but I think that we should be able to at least win against the Knights. We'll get to that, though. Thanks, Brent, for being in touch. Appreciate it. Steve said, great performance by the whole team. Credit where it's due. I thought Jack Williams, Blake Brayley, Cal Iro, Rudolph, Atkinson, and Stone Street were just a few that really stood up. The whole team was special. Nobody let us down. Hoping they can repeat that. Very proud of the boys for that display. Need to keep it going all the way to the top 4, then the grand final. How good's that? Up. That's from Steve. Thanks for being in touch, Steve. Appreciate it. Chris says, and this is an interesting one. I did read this one before. Chris says, Jack Williams is going to become another Scott Sorensen. Shows a lot of promise. Sharks let him go and is a valuable regular in a premiership winning team. Hope we can keep him. Now, what's wrong about that statement, Josh?
Well, I mean, we've had Jack for like 7 or 8 years, right?
Continue.
And I don't know I'm not sure where you want me to go.
Well, I would say, first of all, thanks for being in touch, Chris. And I completely understand where you're coming from. I think that Jack Williams has shown 100% more of what he is compared to what Scott Sorensen showed us back when he was with us. Scott Sorensen had some, maybe like 2 or 3 breakout games. He had, I'm assuming, 50, I don't even know how many there were. I don't have it in front of me. But he had the rest of his career at Cronulla was just sort of in the middle. Not bad, not great, just in the middle. Solid, benchy, fringy. Absolutely went to Penrith, lit it up. He's a regular first grader. Maybe that's what he needed to get to the next level. Maybe he was getting over injuries during his time. I don't know. Definitely next level. But I would argue, very politely, Chris, that Jack Williams has been our best forward in at least 2 of the seasons he's been with us. And I think that he's been really way more... I think he's had way more of a impact on our squad than what Scott Sorensen did.
Well, I'll go further than that. I think Jack Williams is a better player than Scott Sorensen. I know they're different positions.
Sure.
But I think he's a better player. And Scott suits that system at Penrith.
I understand what Chris is saying, so I'm not ragging on Chris. Chris is saying, don't let him go and win a comp somewhere else. I get it.
Of course.
I'm just having a bit of fun. But I'm not ragging on Scott. Scott's a great bloke and become a really good player. And when he was with us, he was fine. But he wasn't screaming out to the coaching staff, sign me, in my opinion.
I agree.
So, but you're spot on, Chris. We do need to re-sign Jack. Hopefully that will be coming. Troy said... Stone Street was very good against Titans. And he says twice they've played with the 7 forwards and 1 half. And I believe our 2 best performances of the year. And it's hard to... I mean, probably 2 of the better wins. I mean, let's not discount the fact that we absolutely had a lot of fun with the Roosters and with Nico in charge. And some other games there where we had a ball, the Broncos game. So we're not suggesting that our best games are without our halves. What we are saying is that they pulled out 2 amazing wins without them. So very good stuff. I think that's all the mail. So really appreciate everyone being in touch. That was a little bit stop-start because the prep hasn't been here. But appreciate everyone being patient with that. Going to tell you right now about Jason Hawes at Cripps & Cripps Real Estate. He's been in the real estate industry for over 20 years, 20 plus years, mainly in the Sutherland Shire, and he can look after any need you have when it comes to real estate. Any queries, questions, anything at all, he'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with Jason on 0410 417 450. That's 0410 417 450. Jason Hawes, part of Cripps & Cripps Real Estate. Great fella. The 3 companies I mentioned, Josh, are all huge supporters of the Cronulla Sharks. The people that I deal with at those companies are lifelong season ticket holders. They are all in on the Sharks. Josh, we have a big game this week against the Newcastle Knights, 4:05 kickoff. Cannot wait for it. Let's go to the team news. I will pull up the team on the computer so we can see it. But the spoiler is they've named a team very similar to last week. So the back line remains the same in theory with Atkinson and Brayley in the halves. Toby gets the starting spot with Oregon Kafusi. Talakai and Jack Williams are at the back of the scrum again. Your immediate interchange bench is Jaden Beryl, Billy Burns, Royce Hunt, and Tom Hazelton. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The extended bench is Nephi Peru, Braden Hamlin-Welly, Braden Trindle, Ronaldo Militalo, and Tuku Haitapua. So the last four guys are pretty much first-grade regulars. So no intel right now as to what the heck's going on. I will be down at a training media session in the next couple of hours. So I might know something then, might not. But from what I'm hearing so far, Josh, on a Wednesday afternoon, is that the most likely out of those guys will be Braden Trindle. Doesn't mean he is going to play, but he is the kind of trending towards the most likely out of the other crew. Are you okay if that 1 to 17 team runs out there, Josh?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I've just been thinking as well, just sorry not to go too much off topic, but would you consider Jack Williams to start in the front row at all this year when everyone's back and McInnes could still play 13? Is that something you'd consider?
Yeah, because I don't really see Jack as a ball-playing lock, right? Like, did he?
Yeah.
He didn't really do that in the weekend. That was just
No.
all McInnes. So there's no difference, right?
Yeah, I'm just spitballing. Like, if it comes down to,
Yeah.
when everyone's healthy, to get Jack and Cam on the field at the same time for as long as possible. Anyway,
I think that as long as Jack's playing in the middle and playing big minutes, I got no problem with that at all. I mean, he'd get the job done for you. There's literally no difference these days between a lock and a prop in the way that Jack plays. Like Cam McInnes different, Cam Murray different. I get it, but a Jack Williams, he's got some hands. We've seen him with a try assist even this year, but I'd have no problem with that.
As long as he's running the ball up and down, it doesn't really matter what the number is. But anyway, back to this week's team. I think that if we run that out, I'm fine with it. We've done it a couple of times now. I thought maybe the fact that he's named it again and that there's no surprise factor this time, he might have done something different. But I also don't think Fitz plays those games anyway. So I expect that we'll do the exact same thing as we did last week if this is how it is. If Trindle comes back in, obviously Brayley just goes back to 9 and we play like normal.
So looking at the Knights team, I heard a sneaky rumor about Ponga maybe not being fit. I'm only putting it out there because I heard it. There was some sort of cloud, but I'm sure he'll play. But named it fullback. Fletcher Sharp on the wing, who scored 4 tries last week. Now, Dylan Lucas, who's a great player, he's still being named in the centres, and he's more of a edge back rower. So that might be something they want to look at. The halves are Tyson Gamble and Phoenix Crossland. That's not remarkable. Now, forward pack is decent, let's be honest. Dan Saifidi, who's actually pretty good. Jaden Brayley, Leo Thompson, who's a beast. Tyson Frizzell, who in my opinion is still a beast. Pierce Paul, who's really good. Adam Elliott locks the scrum. So it's not a bad pack that they have. And on the bench is Jack Cogger, Matt Croker, Jack Hetherington, Brodie Jones. So I think it's a very winnable game no matter who we put out there. I will say that if Ponga is fit and firing, he's obviously their danger guy. Like, we get that. I still don't have a lot of fear from him, but he is a guy that, he has the skills. I do think it's a very winnable game though, Josh.
100% it is. I will be disappointed if we don't win. I'm not saying that it's a lock because we've seen the Knights turn it on a few times this year. That Fletcher Sharp is a bit of a worry with the pace. And like they've got a lot of toilers and a lot of guys who work hard. Like that Dylan Lucas is not a bad player. Like
No.
he
He's
is a
good.
second rower, but he's filled in admirably at center a few times this year. I'd be getting at him as much as possible.
That's my
Um,
point. Yeah.
yeah, but he can play. There's not a lot that strikes fear into me in this side, but we've been quite it before saying that, and then we've been towed up. So I think at home, 3 grades, packed house. If it's a sunny Sunday afternoon, I do expect us to go on and win fairly comfortably.
Yeah.
I'd be looking at Talakai on that edge at whatever half they've got, just hammering that bloke. I can't remember who is on that edge, but Nakora running a line. Like I just think we're going to have too much in the way of attack, even if it is Cam McInnes playing halfback again. I just think we're going to have too much, and we're fitter. We've got better players. We've just got to shut down Ponga on those sweep plays on that edge that he likes on that left edge. You just got to shut that down, and that's a lot of their attack comes through that.
So they've got Greg Marzu on the wing, and he is remarkably strong and gets a lot of meters, and you don't want him running at you from 5 out because he'll probably score. So I look at guys like that and go, oh yeah, he could score a try. He could do a number on us to an extent. But I look at them as a whole, and I mean the halves again. I just don't fear anything with Tyson Gamble and Phoenix Crossland. You know 100% what you're going to get from them.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing for them, but as an opposition, that's pretty good that you know what you're going to get. I think that the Brayley versus Brayley thing is pretty cool. I think they'll both sort of rise out of that. We've seen them play against each other before, but it's never something that, like knowing Blake a little bit like I do, and even Jaden, like there is a rivalry, and it will be a lot of fun, and there'll be hugs before and after, but once they're on that field, like they're going to go for it. And that's actually a really fun kind of storyline for me. I just think man to man, we've got too much against them. And I'd sort of forgotten the bench that we'd named. So Beryl, Burns, Hunt, and Hazelton. So competent bench. But we'll see if anything comes out of Hamlin Welly, even Atuku, who I believe played for the Jets last week. So that could change. It may not. We'll see what happens. We're a long way out from Sunday is the other thing, Josh. We're only recording this on Wednesday, so we've got like half a week to go. But one of our listeners said, they'd be disappointed if we didn't go on with it. I think at this point of the year, and, I hate to do it, but you think about 2016 and you were just looking for W's. You weren't really... we won some games, we lost some games that year, end of the year, and it was like we're looking at the finish line. And at this point, we're not in that dominant force. Like we're still trying to make the 4. So we're not in that same spot. But as long as we win on the weekend, I'll be happy. Minimize injuries and suspensions, that kind of thing. Happier. If you can do a number on them, beautiful. Happy days with the for and against, because that could become a thing. At the moment, we're pretty good with for and against.
Yeah.
If they can improve on that, that's even better. But I wouldn't necessarily, I definitely wouldn't be playing like that. I just think if it's half an hour to go and we're winning by 20, then I'd be like, well, let's try and go on with it.
Yeah. For me, right now, the for and against is not a factor purely because we're so far ahead of the Dogs and we're a fair amount behind the Roosters.
Yeah.
And if the Roosters go on and, win a cup, like smash someone and it's irrelevant, the Dogs, as long as we don't get smashed, really, the Dogs won't catch us for and against wise. So like you said, for me, it's just the wins. The for and against is fairly relevant unless the Roosters drop a game or get, touched up a little bit. It's not going to factor in too much, I think, at this point. So just get the win. Keep winning, keep the Dogs and Manly away from us. Make it impossible for them to catch us in the last round, which is what I want.
Yeah, that's my ultimate goal, actually, is to have a top 4 locked in with 1 week to go. And then you get to that game.
Rest everyone.
I would imagine you're resting everyone, yeah. And then there's the old debate, well, they need to play. It's like they don't need to play.
No,
they played for 27 weeks. It's fine. So, but Nico Hines, don't worry. He's not going to play.
Would you play him if he was ready to go?
And it was meaningless?
If it was meaningless, would you want him to get the run?
No.
No?
Because it's all about the finals.
Just to blow out the cobwebs, though, it'll have been about 8 weeks, right, since then. Would you want him to get...
I don't think so. Because it's not like NFL where you can bring him on and off.
Right.
He's a sub. Unless you have the game plan of it means nothing, it's a trial match. Give him the 40 minutes
40
and then
minutes.
take him off. Maybe if you want, maybe.
I think I'm mostly with you.
It's risky though. It's risky.
It is, but it's risky the other way as well. Just chucking him into a finals game at Melbourne or Penrith, 8 weeks off. That's my only.
Yeah, but if you're training 5 days a week and you've got Tuku hitting you up training and there's ways to kind of mimic it. You'll never mimic a proper game. I'm not trying to say you would, but there are ways to kind of ease your way into it without playing. I mean, it just takes one angry dude from Manly just to take your guy out for the series. Yeah. So
I think I'm with you. I'm like 80% there.
That'll be a debate we have in 3 weeks. But also Nico's not exactly, like he can find an injury this year. So
yeah.
That's more my thinking of specifically who it is.
I'm just thinking as well, like if we did play him and he got injured from something dumb, we'd be thinking, why did we do it? So I think mostly I'm in that camp. I would love him to get 1 or 2 runs. If you could get 2 games in, if he could play the week before, maybe if somehow he was fit, you definitely play him regardless. And then after that, I'd love him to get a run.
I mean, he did tell one of our colleagues that he'd be back in 3 weeks, and that was a week ago. So I think he was trending towards the Warriors game, but that's out of his mouth. That's not out of the coaching staff. That's not out of the medical. That's from him. So we'll see what happens. I kind of figured it'd be more like, week 1 of the finals, and then it's the whole just chuck him in and go for it. But we will see what happens. Hey, Josh, it's been a lot of fun talking to you midweek. It's always good chatting to you about the mighty Cronulla Sharks. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your friendship. We'll see you down at the game, which is going to be a lot of fun. I think most of the SharkCasters are going to be there in the house, which is exciting. I don't know about all, but most of them will be there. We might try and go for that team photo, which we haven't quite nailed yet.
Yeah.
But, we'll see. We'll see about that. But thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. SharkCastPod@gmail.com. We're on the socials, as our little banner says, at SharkCastPod. Above all, just appreciate you guys and girls for tuning in. Now, Josh, I'm thinking that myself, some of us, however we can do it, we might go live after the NRL game, depending on a few things, but if we can make it work with tech, if we can make it work with just logistics and with people, we might go live. So just stay tuned to our channels. If you subscribe to us on Facebook and on, what else I'm going to say, YouTube especially, it'll pop up if we go live. If not, maybe just tune in, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes after the game. And I'm thinking we might do that. We don't get to do it often. So if we do it, have a bit of fun, and people can respond to what we're saying and have their own say and maybe even jump on. We'll see. TBC, it's all TBC, but that's the plan if everything works out. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. More importantly, have a great week. Have a great time at the game, and let's get the W. Josh, we will talk to you soon, my friend, and I will see you even sooner, which is very exciting.